Hello, I am back and I have returned with a mission, and that is on this lot here in Sequoia, which is right by the sea, which honestly is one of my favorite lots because of that. It has these really cool houses right next to it here in the world, and I remember seeing these in the trailer for this pack already, I believe, and I thought they were so cool. But then when I actually got to play with the pack, I was really disappointed to find out that they're not real. Like, you can't enter them, you can't interact with them, they're literally only there for decoration, and it really annoys me. So what I want to try and do is recreate these basically on this lot here and kind of make it seem like an extension. As in, I'm hoping once this is done, that these houses will look like they're part of the set. So the first thing that I did, as you can see here, is I got the actual, or one of the actual houses. I'm not sure if they're all the same, but I got one of the houses from Debug and basically tried and match it up with the actual items that we have in the game as closely as possible. And I'm only using Growing Together, which is the pack that this world came with, as well as Forend, because I am making this for my own save file that I want to publish eventually. And I'm kind of trying to be smart with my pack usage. So in here, once it's done, we're gonna have 4 different apartments, which I will all furnish. For some of them, I've even already made some families that are going to live here. And then we're also going to decorate some community spaces. It's gonna turn out super cool. I'm really happy with the end result. And it's also going to take a while. When I upload this is going to be the longest video that I ever made on YouTube, which is kind of crazy to think about. Well, I'm going to be here for a while editing this. But I actually really like long form content. It's perfect to just put on and then go do something else. So I hope you don't mind the long video either. And in case you're curious, I once again have prepared an entire batch of videos to upload. I only started this channel super recently, so I'm still kind of figuring out how I want to do this, but I think I really like sort of publishing seasons together. If you like long videos, this batch has a few of them as well. I built some really big projects this time around. Anyway, back to the actual project. As you can see, I now figured out the shape that I want to go with, and I also placed in all of the windows. One thing that I struggled with over the entire course of this project was what color scheme I wanted to do. Because the original houses are kind of like fun and colorful, but also a bit ugly. And I wouldn't mind to be hopefully not ugly, but I still wanted them to have the same vibe, of course, so that was a bit of an issue. Oh, and I also did one of my favorite things, which is to hide a little upstairs up in the roof. And yes, these spaces do actually end up being part of the apartments. As you may or may not know, I actually really dislike doing the floor plan on camera because I just get nervous. And floor plans are already hard enough to do even when you don't feel like everybody's watching you and judging you very closely. So let me skip ahead here to when I kind of finished preparing it, placing in all the walls as well as the filler furniture. And what I mean by that is that I placed down some temporary furniture to sort of symbolize what I kind of want to have in a particular space, but I'll replace these later on or place different things. It's just to kind of get a rough idea. So down here on the right, I want to make that community space that I talked about. There's going to be a gym as well as a little library, and I also included some bathrooms. And then this room here is going to be where the staircase starts, where you can enter the building. And then up here is going to be the first apartment, which is going to have a living room here as well as a bathroom, and then a super long and skinny kitchen as well as 2 bedrooms. And then up here we have another apartment, which I think is going to be my favorite one in the end. Despite it being a really similar shape to the one downstairs, this one was a lot easier to partition. And these people also get 2 bedrooms, but also 2 bathrooms. One of them being a little ensuite one. And like I said, this one also has that cool little attic space, which you can reach using a ladder. And then down here on the left, downstairs, I want to build a small apartment, sort of like a starter apartment. And don't actually get too attached to this layout because I ended up disliking it and changing the whole thing. On back here I also left some space for a little utility room. moving on to the upstairs, up here is actually going to be the biggest apartment out of all of them with 3 floors. As you can see, we have a kitchen and a living room, as well as a big bathroom and a bedroom down here. And then upstairs we have another bathroom and 2 kids' rooms. And we have, once again, one of the cool attic spaces, which is really similar to the one on the other building. I also luckily remembered to place some mailboxes because I almost forgot. And then, looking at my layout that I have right now, I had a really cool idea, which is that I saw that the hallways upstairs in both of these buildings are sort of in the same spot, if that makes sense. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what if I connect both of these buildings with a little bridge? And as you can see, that's what I'm doing right now, and I think this turns out so cute. That's honestly really lucky of me that I didn't think of this at first, but it ended up working out so perfectly. Although that being said, there was like a really cool view in between these 2 buildings before. Because obviously, as you can tell, there's like the sea behind this, and it looked really cool when you like looked through the little gap, and the bridge kind of covers that. So I'm not sure if I should have kept this. I do in the end, and I really like it, but it does come with its downsides. Especially since the bridge isn't like the most necessary thing. It does look cool though, it does look cool. Once I had the floor plan down, I actually didn't immediately get to furnishing like you might expect. My kind of, I guess, new strategy for going about building houses is to actually do the outside first once I know what the shape of the building is going to be. Because I noticed whenever I would first do the interior and then do the exterior of a build, the exterior would always turn out kind of half-baked. I feel like exteriors are really not my strong suit, and I feel a lot less excited about doing an exterior versus an interior. So in order for the exterior to also turn out nice, I decided I should go and do the exterior first. Because I believe what was happening is that whenever I did the interior first, is that I kind of lost motivation even more for the outside, and then they wouldn't turn out as good. However, doing it this way around ensures that the exterior will also look good, and my interiors will usually come out looking quite good no matter what. I mean, in my opinion, that is. That being said though, the exterior for this one doesn't even turn out that special. I pretty much just had a look at what was around and tried to mimic that. So on the left of the lot, you saw me kind of extend that little hedge. I found the same hedge in debug, or one that matched very closely, and I kind of tried to sort of complete the shape. And then here in between the buildings, I tried to replicate that sort of flower circle that is in front of the building. And I ended up just painting the entire ground with sort of like a gravel texture. And then I added in a couple of extras, like a couple of planter boxes as well as tables. But again, nothing special really. But still, even if it's not that grand, I feel like it would have still turned out sadder if I had done it last, for example. So in conclusion, I feel like it's a very good strategy to sort of tackle the things that you're excited about the least first. And while I continue to build the outside and do everything that I just talked about, can I talk to you guys about something else? Because do you ever get one of those ideas that just, once you have them, are on your mind constantly and you basically can't stop thinking about it and you're kind of obsessed? And I've been having one of those, but Sims related. And unfortunately, I don't really have anybody to talk to about this stuff. So unfortunately, it looks like you're going to have to listen to me ramble about this now. Which is that I've been thinking a lot about a create a world tool for The Sims 4. There used to be something like this for The Sims 3. I believe it was like a whole separate tool, and you could use it to, well, create your own world. Unfortunately, I was way too young when The Sims 3 was out to understand something like that or to use something like that. So I've been thinking, how cool would it be if they made something like that for The Sims 4 and I could actually use it this time and make my own worlds? I imagine I would have so much fun making something like that, and I imagine that people in the community would make so many cool things. And I'm definitely not the first person to have this idea. I've seen discussions about this online before, and there are a lot of people who say that they personally could never see anything like this come to The Sims 4, and honestly, maybe they're right, I don't know. I'm kind of hoping for it. My thought process is that worlds in The Sims 3 were a lot more complex because they had open worlds, right? And worlds in The Sims 4 are a lot smaller, and they're also in this neighborhood system, sort of. So in my mind, I'm like, surely creating a world for The Sims 4 can't be a lot more stressful than when it comes to The Sims 3. In fact, I would imagine that it's a lot more difficult for The Sims 3. So I'm thinking if we had it in The Sims 3, surely there is also a way to do it in The Sims 4, especially if it's maybe easier, at least according to me. But then again, I'm also not at all an expert at this, so I don't know. And also, I could kind of see this not being a thing, simply because EA wants to make money, and I feel like the worlds that come with the expansion packs might be a huge reason why a lot of people buy the packs. Because when you're always in Willow Creek or Oasis Springs, it gets a little boring. But yeah, I'm crossing my fingers either way. And isn't the 10-year anniversary of this game coming up as well? I mean, that would surely be a good opportunity for a big surprise, just saying. Although now that I put that in the universe, it's probably not going to happen anyway. Because isn't that how that always works? Brace yourselves for another hot tub. And also for the inside, because I'm finally done with the outside. And the first thing that I furnished in here was the gym downstairs on the right. And this place honestly isn't that special at all. But one thing that, I mean, is not really actually exciting, but kind of exciting to me because I've never done anything like this before on a build, is that I couldn't find a good matching floor. So instead, I just covered the entire floor in this carpet. I think I should try and do something like that more often. I guess we don't really have many like good carpets for this, but it's definitely a handy trick to keep in mind in case I ever really struggle with picking out a floor. And then I got to this room that's right next to it, which I wanted to make into sort of like a library, sort of like a kid's space. My idea was that this is maybe like a place where the parents that live here can just kind of send their kids down to and be like, go and play. I basically really just wanted an excuse to use these cool bookshelves from the pack. I really like the rounded pieces. I don't know, I think they're quite fancy. And to be 100% honest, this place ends up being a bit of a mess. I mean, just when it comes to like the colors and all of the objects that are placed around. But I think that is very much in the spirit of what I'm trying to make here, which again, is kind of like a kid's space. I also included a bathroom down here, which I think is going to be quite handy. And I once again added in my little fake bathroom stalls that I like to make. Especially whenever I play without any packs that have the actual bathroom stalls in them. But also I think I just prefer this because it's smaller, it's a lot more compact. I've talked about this before, but my issue with the quote-unquote real bathroom stalls is that they're such an awkward size. And at first I had 2 normal toilets in here, but later on I actually exchanged one of them for one of the potties, which I thought was quite funny. I kind of got a little ahead of myself there, but here it is, the bathroom that I talked about. And you were probably already expecting it, but I thought I should also mention that I, of course, play tested this entire build. So if you do decide to download this off the gallery, once I finish it, everything will be accessible, hopefully, unless I forgot something. And yes, people who have watched the previous episodes that I made will be very delighted to find out that I brought Jerry back once again. My boy. I'm not gonna lie, he's kind of turned into my channel's mascot a bit, hasn't he? Specifically of LadyLoea. I honestly don't mind it. In fact, I've been thinking about using his face as my face, as my profile picture. because right now I just have like a little drawing that I made of my face. But I've been thinking that I need something a little more interesting perhaps. So why not? I'll see if I can get a good picture of him sometime. Next up, I took care of that utility room, and this is where all of the wall objects from For Rent really shine. I'm so glad that the team also thought, hey, let's provide the players with something in case they want to make really dingy places as well. Because at least to me, making places that are kind of messy and smelly is really fun. In this build here, all of the apartments are going to be quite nice though. I'm sorry to disappoint you if that disappoints you. But I definitely want to make like a really messy apartment sometime as well. I do need to be careful though, because you can only have so many apartments per save file. I believe there is a limit of, was it 99 units? Something like that. And I feel like I shouldn't be worried when it comes to my own custom save file that I'm building, because 99 is a lot. Like really, that's plenty. But then I'm also thinking, what if? Here I also took care of all of the hallways and that sort of stuff in the house, and I struggled quite a bit with what wallpaper and what floor I should use in here. But I ended up with this combo that I really liked, which was this white, what would that be called? Paneling? White wooden beams. And then along with that, I used this like turquoise carpet with a fancy pattern. And I really like this combo, I really do. Both of them are base game as well, so I definitely need to remember that. I feel like both of them also kind of give off the seaside coastal vibes that I wanted for this place. And then in one spot I also had this really awkward open space in the hallway. So I was just like, bench, plant, done. That's kind of my go-to thing whenever I don't really know what to put in an open space. Oh, and remember when I was like, don't get attached to this layout that I have right now because I'll change it later on? Well, guess what? Later on is right now. And also, ignore this random lady, I don't know what she's doing here. But so what I did to improve this is I changed the location of the front door, which I think makes a lot more sense this way. Before, I kind of just had the door like on the outside of the building, but now it's inside the little hallway. I don't know why I didn't even think of that in the first place, but I guess I did in the end, so that's all that counts. And with the new and improved door placement, the rest of the place came together quite easily and made a lot more sense than whatever I had going on before. I'm really glad that I caught this early on before it was too late. Like before I had already picked out all of the furniture and placed everything. Which, by the way, is exactly what I'm going to do next. And this one took me a while because I wasn't so sure what colors I wanted. Because at first I was kind of going for dark wood on all things, because I do have to admit I'm a bit of a dark wood girly. I don't know, I just think it looks cozy. But it wasn't really working out, so I changed it to lighter wood in the end. That was kind of funny. In this building on the left here, the color schemes were kind of difficult to figure out for both of the apartments. But then on the other building that's across from here, all of the color schemes came together super quickly. Anyway, so like I said, this here is going to be a bit of a starter apartment. Although saying that, I'm not entirely sure what that means exactly. Because the Sims community has kind of agreed more or less on starter homes, like the definition of starter homes, which basically just means, you know, you build a lot that costs less than 20,000 simoleons, because that's the starter money with one sim. And then usually with the apartments that come with city living, I just do the same thing where I try and build an apartment that's under 20,000. But then with these for rent apartments, I'm not entirely sure what people agreed on. If people even agreed on anything in the first place. So I just kind of made sure to use cheap stuff in general, and hopefully it's going to be fine. I'm not entirely sure about for rent in general, like how it works and stuff, and all of the details. It was, and I think it's still pretty broken. So I kind of held off on playing it. I remember there was like a very long phase where people were like, oh no, there are game-breaking bugs, your save files could get corrupted and yada yada, and it kind of scared me, so I didn't end up playing with it that much yet. It's kind of a bit sad. Hopefully those issues will be solved by the time that you're seeing this. I mean, knowing EA, yeah, they probably won't be. In fact, even I experienced a lot of issues while making this. Building this was fine, but I did get that one bug later on where it said that all of my apartments were basically like 4 bajillion simoleons, which is not true. I didn't count what each object cost while I made this, but let me tell you, it does not add up to like 4 bajillion. And also, later on, I did try to move people in here as a test, and it didn't work. I couldn't load into the lot when there were people living in it at all. So that's pretty bad. Again, I hope they will solve that or have solved that. I will upload this to the gallery later on, of course, in case you want to download it and play with it yourself. And I'm not entirely sure how well that's going to work out, because not only are apartments really buggy, but the gallery itself as well. I think I'll just upload this as is, as a residential rental, which might cause some problems. I heard that that's kind of weird to download. If you want to grab this and it doesn't work out for you for some reason, just let me know in some way, and maybe I can try and re-upload this in some way or see what I can do, if there is anything I can do about that. But while I was talking about that, I finished up the apartment down here. As you can see, again, super simple, just to start the apartment. I do like this little split level thing that I did here. Is that maybe a bit extra? Is there maybe not enough space for that in here? Probably, but I like it, so I put it in. And with that, we shall move on to the next apartment, which will be the one in the right building upstairs on the first floor, or second floor, whatever you prefer to call it. And up here, I did let out that Darkwood girly a lot more. Very happy about that. And I did have a special theme for this one. All of the other apartments in here end up being kind of, I don't want to call them generic, but for lack of a better word, kind of generic. And in here, I used a lot of the for rent furniture a lot more. That was the thing. For rent obviously comes with all of these pretty Southeast Asian inspired objects, and I wanted to use them as well. And a lot of them are pretty universal and could probably go in any world in The Sims, but some of them are also a bit specific to Tomarani, to sort of that style of that world. And I really wanted an excuse to use them as well. So I was like, why don't I make it so that somebody, like a resident of one of these apartments, is actually originally from Tomarani and moved to this world, to San Sequoia. So I came up with a little backstory for the family who are going to own this place, where I was basically like, what if one of the parents is from San Sequoia and the other one is from Tomarani? And what if they're both really enthusiastic about traveling and they met on vacation somewhere? Yeah, so eventually they decided to come to San Sequoia and live here. And I've put around a bunch of like little knickknacks that they might own from all of their journeys around the world. Lots of little souvenirs, whatever I could find. And the idea is that basically the person who's from Tomarani got to kind of decide over the furniture and brought along a bunch of stuff from there. And I really like how this came out. I especially like the color scheme in here, which again, Darkwood girly. But then I also really like the red and yellow in here. And I never thought I would, but I kind of ended up using gray as an accent color in here. There is this one growing together fireplace that has like this gray part in it. And I also discovered this base game coffee table that also has gray on the top, and I managed to work that in so well. Do you ever get one of those moments where it's like, wow, this thing I just made feels kind of above my usual skill level? That's what that felt like for me. The kids' room ends up looking quite different from the rest because I really like to color code my Sims, and I decided to have one of the kids be color coded as pink and the other one as purple. And I was feeling a bit insecure about their room because it's so small and such an awkward size in a way. I mean, there have probably been worse shapes, but still, nonetheless, I think I made it work quite well. Oh, and this next clip that is coming up here is probably of my favorite detail in this apartment, which is that I believe in growing together. There are these cute little posters, and they have 4 different swatches, and each one of them depicts a different Sims world. And I thought that was so perfect for the story that I was trying to tell here. Because I imagine maybe these are some of the things that they picked up during their travels, or maybe these are posters of their favorite destinations. I believe it was of Windenburg, Strangerville, and Mount Komorebi. And yeah, I thought that was so cute. Fun fact, or well, maybe not so fun fact, half of this kid's room ended up glitching into the void at some point throughout this video. I didn't actually leave a clip of this in, I don't think, because I was pretty much already done, and I think it also happened quite a bit later on. I'm guessing it was that really weird glitch that happens sometimes where you, for example, place a wallpaper and then for some reason the game is like, oh no, these objects are in the way, I must delete them, even though they're like not even in the same room or something. So that was a little weird, but luckily thanks to these recordings here I could just place everything back in the same spot. And while I was telling that story, I already finished the parents' room as well, which also turned out so cozy. I feel like I've said that word 30 times already, but that's just kind of like the perfect word to describe how this apartment turned out. Which, by the way, here is a final look of how it turned out. I will also do like a proper final look of everything in the end, so stay tuned for that. Let's move on to the apartment upstairs, which is on the 2nd or 3rd floor. And like I already said, I think this one is going to be my favorite one in the end, simply because the color scheme turned out so cute. Here in this clip, I'm still kind of figuring it out, but it all comes together in a bit. And this apartment actually ends up having no residents. I think I should have probably mentioned this way earlier. But in the end, we have 4 apartments in here, and 2 of them are actually going to have residents in them that I want to make. And then the other 2 are going to be free, and they're going to be apartments where you can move in your Sims if you'd like. And that is, by the way, for my own save file. If you download this off the gallery, there will obviously be no people living in it. Which honestly is kind of sad. I wish they would add a feature to the gallery where you could kind of link households and their houses together. Because so often you will build a house or an apartment in this case for specific Sims, right? And I'm not even asking for anything too special. I feel like it would be enough if you could add like a link to the little gallery description, or maybe somewhere add like a new panel to the UI that maybe could say something like, hey, this house also has a household that belongs with it, click here to get there, or something like that. But I mean, if they want to add cool new features to the gallery, maybe they should make the gallery pretty much functional in the first place, since at the minute it's a bit of a disaster. But yeah, do you see now what I mean when I talked about how I love the color scheme in here? Sort of this like muted pink. I'm just a really big fan of it. In fact, I've been thinking if maybe I should like build an entire house here in San Sequoia with all of the growing together stuff that only has this color scheme. As in like a whole lot dedicated to this color scheme. That's how much I like it. Right now I'm furnishing the little attic space up here, which I still think is so cute. I'm so glad that I thought of this. And I decorated this like a generic attic space, just put random stuff up here that you might want to use, as well as a sleeping bag. Because I thought it could be really cute to kind of like have stayover guests up there in the attic. That is, if sleepovers work in apartments, which actually I'm not too sure. I mean, technically they should work, but with The Sims you never know. I feel like I talked so much over the course of this video about the game being super glitchy and broken, which totally was not my intention, but oh well. Either way, here is how the apartment turned out. Again, I'm a really big fan, and with that, let's move on to the last apartment, the really big one, which is in the left building on the first, second, and third / the second, third, and fourth floor of the building. That really is a mouthful. But so this apartment is going to be for 6 people, which is a lot, but I also think it's a big apartment, so it makes sense. I once again have 2 parents, and they have a teen, a child, and twin fins. And I really like how this turned out as well. I'm pretty much proud of every single apartment in here, which is pretty cool. It kind of ended up being a sort of loft, if that's the correct word for it, where basically the upstairs is pretty open. You can look into the living room from the upstairs. And so on the first floor of the apartment, I have the parents' room down there. And then on the second one, I have the room for the twin fins, as well as the room for the child, and the teenager is going to go up in the attic. And I already mentioned that the color scheme over here was a bit tricky for me. I didn't actually end up putting that many clips of that in, so it ends up looking like it was easier than it actually was. But figuring this out took me a while. Oh, and one thing that I completely forgot to mention up until now is a cute little detail that I added is that the growing together door that I used as the front door for all of the apartments actually comes in many cute swatches, and I made it so that each individual apartment has its own color. I can't remember what apartment has what color off the top of my head, but I guess we're going to see that later on in the final tour. And I know that I just made this whole comment about how I keep going on and on about glitches in this video, but I need to talk about a glitch again because I made a discovery. I mentioned earlier that I couldn't load into this lot at all. Like when I had Sims living here and then tried to play with them, I would just get an error code. And after some testing, I now know what that caused. Which, by the way, I realize this is a little bit weird for the video because I talked about this only a couple of minutes ago or something. And now I'm like, oh, I did some testing. I know why that is. Yeah, not so fun fact. Recording this stuff takes absurdly long. And several hours have passed since then. But anyway, I know why. And it's very obvious, and I should have seen this coming. But the problem was that this lot didn't have a landlord. It didn't have an owner. And instead of being normal about it and just giving you, I don't know, like a pop-up that says, hey, this place doesn't have a landlord and it probably needs one, I guess. It throws you like a whole error code. In one case, even the whole game crashed. And not even like a The Sims has stopped working crash. It just like closed. And the EA app was waiting for me behind it, staring back at me like, yeah, I don't know what that was either. But yeah, when I tried to load into the lot and had one of the families set as the property owners, it worked flawlessly. As in, I could load into it. Not sure if the rest would work flawlessly, but I'm happy that I could even play with The Sims in the first place. So in order for this place to be functional, you'll definitely have to make a property owner. And for me, for my save file, I'm going to have to come up with something as well. Neither of the families that I made for this place really give me like property owner vibes. I've been thinking, what if the story in my save file could be that there is like one property owner who owns like a ton of lots around the place? And they're like the super evil landlord that bought like half the world. And what if they live in one of the properties as well and they have like the super duper fancy apartment all the way at the top of the building? That does sound like a really cool idea. And also, can I just point out, have you maybe noticed anything changing over the course of the video? I mean, probably not. I probably wouldn't have. But I just noticed you can tell what screen I'm playing this on. That's something that I totally didn't think about. But earlier I was recording on my laptop, which you could see because the UI covered a large portion of the screen. And now I'm playing on my big screen, which is why the UI is super duper tiny down there. That's actually kind of funny to me. Anyway, let's get back to the actual build. As you can see, I finished with the downstairs already, and now I furnished the child's room. And then right now I'm working on the twin fins room. And then coming up is a clip of me building the bathroom, which I'm particularly excited about. Usually my bathrooms don't really end up being much of anything because it's a bathroom, especially if they're this size, so small. But this one ended up being pretty cool because I had the idea to include like a custom shower curtain. And this is super fun. What I basically did is I added a wall between the rest of the bathroom and the little bathtub, and I used these curtains from forend, and it took some trial and error and some nudging around all of the different furniture pieces, but I basically just made it so that, like I said, there is a custom shower curtain. And yes, this still works totally fine. In order for bathtubs to be functional, only the tile that has the tap on it needs to be accessible. So you can block off a bathtub on all sides except for one tile. And then together with a forend tile on the floor, it just makes this place look so fancy. And with that, this floor was done, which means that we are on to the very last room in this build, which means that we're almost done. And that was, of course, the other little room up in the attic. And like I already said, this is going to be the room for the teenager. And I kind of based the entire room off of that rug that's on the floor there right now. So I gave it like a moon and star sort of theme. And I love how this turned out as well. I would move in here. Getting up here and downstairs using that ladder would be a little bit dangerous, but I would still move in. I think what really brought this place together is that one wallpaper from the base game that kind of looks like a night sky with stars. I'm not sure if that's what it was intended to be, but I definitely think that's what it looks like. If I went to a friend's house after school and they had a place like this, I would have been so jealous. Which I think is a very good sign for the Sims build, that is. For my personality? Maybe less so. But yeah, right now I'm putting in the last few bits, like for example that wallpaper. And with that, I think we might be finally finished. Oh my goodness. Hold up. Hold up. There it is. That's the wallpaper that I talked about. Only putting in these curtains, and then I shall show you what this looks like from the map view. Which honestly, not that great. It kind of got our boring side. And also there is that bug where it says that everything costs like 4 bajillion simoleons that I talked about, which is fixed now. When I look at it now in game, it's repaired. And yeah, here's also what it looks like when you sort of scroll through or whatever this is called. And then coming up afterwards is the final look of this place. In honestly, not the best lighting, but we're just going to roll with it. And have I managed to achieve my goal of making these houses look like they're part of the set and belong together with those houses in the world back there? I'm not sure. I feel like in some ways I did, in other ways I didn't. But I still really like the end result, and I think that's all that counts. Let's also have a look inside here. This is the gym that we built, and as you can see, I painted the ceiling in here. I didn't paint the ceiling in every room, especially not the apartments that are meant for your Sims, because that is a lot of money. But yeah, in some rooms I did. And then over here is the little library. For some reason, one of the Sims who came here uninvited while I was playtesting trashed this poor little dollhouse, but oh well. I'm gonna speed through this a little bit because we've been here long enough. But here is the utility room. Not that much going on in here. And then up these stairs we have a little bench plant corner. And then walking around this corner we get to the first apartment. This one is with a yellow door. This is the one where I used a lot of the Tomarani furniture, some of which unfortunately glitched away as I just realized. I don't know, this apartment seems to be kind of cursed. I already had some issues with furniture glitching away earlier in here, like I said, so that's pretty weird. But in the final version that's going on the gallery, I will make sure that everything is in place. Let's check out the apartment upstairs next, which is the one that I gave a red door. And this was the really cool pink one. I'm sorry if the pace that I'm moving the camera at is a bit annoying. The higher you go, the more messed up the controls get in free cam mode. I don't know what it is. So I'm struggling a little bit showing this off, but I'm doing my best. Also, this time of day is not that great for looking at this place from the outside, but from in here it looks really cool the way the sun is shining through the windows. Especially up here in the attic. I mean, just look at that. In this game, the lighting outside is a bit of a disaster. But the lighting inside, I mean, a true pro would probably still have a lot of things to nitpick, but at least in my opinion, it's better. With that, let's check out the next apartment though, which is the one with the blue door. And this is the one for that really big family. So here is what the downstairs looks like. By the way, the weird glitches are in my game and not on your screen, don't worry. And speaking of weird camera glitches, once again the camera was a bit hard to deal with, so I once again had trouble showing this place off, but hopefully you can still get a good idea of what this place looks like. So here are the kids' rooms, which I think turned out very cute. And then when we go up the ladder, we get to that really cool teens room in the attic that is moon and star themed that we just built. Where I had a lot of trouble showing it off, so I just decided to show you in the regular cam mode. And then last but not least, we have that starter apartment. This one I gave an orange door to, and here is what it looks like on the inside. Again, I hope this actually ends up working out as a starter apartment. I'm still not sure. And then let me also show you what the floor plan looks like, because I know that when you watch videos like these, it can be a bit difficult to know which room is where and stuff. I mean, if you can even tell from this clip, because there is a lot going on. With that, thank you so much for joining me today and enduring all of those glitches that were trying to take me down every step along the way. My goodness. Next time around, I'll be rebuilding Copperdale High School. So I hope you're looking forward to that. And I think that's all I wanted to say. Bye!